Welcome back to another discussion video about the recent events in the world of Dirty Bomb. Yes, the lead and iron patch banished these cards of low metallic value from dropping and reinforcing the idea of a level playing field. It seems a positive move for the game. The fragment cases we have now are somewhat lackluster, but having default level cards with 3 augments will hopefully show new players that there's nothing pay to win about Dirty Bomb. It seems overall like a worthwhile change. There were some balance changes too. I'm not going to go through all of the notes, though I will link them in the description if you happen to miss the details. I did want to skim over some points and actually ask your opinion on some others. Okay, so Aura's healing station took a health nerf. To be honest, it seems fair. The Fragger nerf seems much more contentious in my opinion. He seemed to be in a good spot. The grenade changes favoured more accurate use. I really was under the impression that he was used a similar amount to Thunder. Either way, he loses about 7% of his health to 130 HP. The speed increase honestly just annoyed me. The release note text indicates that this was in some way compensation to his health nerf by upping his movement speed from 385 to 390. Yes, 1.3%. If you thought the old 2% Thunder hitbox meme was a joke, then this movement stuff takes it to a whole new level. Guardian's max revive time was lowered to 5 seconds, which seems like a positive change for me. I still struggle to take her over other medic classes. She has the assault rifles, which is nice, but the lack of heal has her in an odd spot. I think nerfing her health and adding some sort of out-of-combat healing ability would make her a glass cannon support. There are other quality of life changes, such as improvements to the feedback on her revive bubble, that I'd like to see. One especially good one I saw on Reddit was by the user Pollution Mixes. They were suggesting making down friendlies light up when they're inside the bubble's radius. To be honest, that sounds like a superb change. Javelin's rocket acceleration was removed, and I'll give the devs credit where it's due. It's nice to see them admit something didn't work or feel right, and they just flat out remove it. It takes more guts to do that than to stubbornly push forward a flawed idea. I'm not convinced she's as OP now as people said she was at launch, but there's still room to tweak her further. I still fear a good Fragger or Thunder more than I do a Javelin. One area I would like to see her buffed though is her self-giving ammo ability. Playing her and running out of ammo is an odd feeling for a fire support, especially when there's no active thing you can do to replenish that ammo. I'd like to see that tweaked slightly. Proxy's mine damage is reduced by 17% to 150, so some people aren't going to be pancake one-shot anymore. But fear not, hordes of proxy players. The actual radius of the explosion is increased from 208 to 240. This actually works out as a 54% buff in the volume of the area it affects. Sparks takes another in a long line of nerfs, this one to her survivability by reducing her self-heal per pack from 30 to 25. And increasing her ally pack heal from 40 to 45. If I'm honest, Sparks is such a sort of periphery merc that I'm not sure what this will really do. I know, personally, I'm not great at playing her. My one-shot aim just isn't good enough to make decent use of her revive rifle. I do know, however, that in skilled hands, she's probably considered dangerously OP. Probably time to consider, post-launch, some sort of rethink in terms of how her revive and damage output actually scales. Perhaps she can't revive every single shot, perhaps the people taking the revive take time to get up so enemies have a chance to kill them. Either way, that huge impact of distance revives needs looking at, then buffing her back into being a decent alternative for more players. Okay, Thunder. And we see the same borderline parody tweak we saw with Fragger's speed increase. The explanation text says this should allow him to get the action a little quicker. I mean, yeah, there's no arguing with the logic that it's a little quicker, but it's 1.3%. Is that even worth doing? I mean, if you're unconvinced, I'll make this point. All the video clips in this video up to this point are running 1.3% faster than normal. I'm guessing not many people noticed. So last November we saw a number of weapon balance changes, many of which were contentious. We saw in some cases extraordinary increases in spread and horizontal recoil that I hope are viewed by the devs as something of a failed experiment and not to be repeated. The Drice perhaps bore the brunt of these nerfs in the November patch. This lead and iron patch saw its max spread reduced 50% and horizontal recoil reduced 20%. But keep in mind, the max spread was reported to be increased by 45% in November, so a 15% buff isn't a lot at all. It still feels like there's too much RNG when using the weapon. It's in a poor state of being both OP when you get lucky and infuriating when you don't. Please, give us the accuracy back and lower the damage to compensate. Both burst ARs, the Stark and the BR-15, seem to have their added horizontal recoil removed in this patch, which, like I said about the U-turn on Javelin's acceleration, is to be applauded when it's seen as not being a positive thing. Now, here's where I want your input. I freely admit, I was never a fan of the burst weapons, even back when they were OP. I'd say my aim is pretty average, perhaps only above average when I'm tracking horizontally, so I'm picking the Blishlocks, the Christinis, the M4s of the world every time. When I try the burst ARs now, they seem even more difficult for me to use because their fire rate is lowered. I'm trying to track while the burst happens, and then having that recoil differ at the same time per burst, it just doesn't sit well with me at all. So I'm asking you guys, do you think the burst weapons are a viable alternative to the M4 and Timic now? I know they aren't as good as they used to be, but are they at least options now? Please leave a comment below right now and let me know your thoughts. So at the end of last year, we saw a new weekly developer video called Ask the Devs. They take community questions and do their best to answer them without giving too much away. In my opinion, this Q&A format is a little rough around the edges. The amount of content that devs can talk about can feel a bit uneven, but if the community also wants surprises, then SD can't exactly be 100% transparent with every response. On the whole, it seems like a positive addition to the normal Thursday video. The reason for me talking about this new video series is the January the 16th episode. Wrong question from watcher Blueston100 said, are there any plans for different game modes in the future? One part of the answer from the devs that caught my eye, or ear if you prefer. We also haven't forgotten about execution mode. We actually have a dedicated small strike team that is currently investigating and playing with various ideas, kind of reeling the gameplay style of execution mode in closer to the way gameplay is supposed to be in DB. And then they followed up by saying, I'm sure you all have some thoughts about that, so please share them if you do. So, here we go. Execution mode, if you don't recall, is the search and destroy mode that in August last year, which is about 5 and a bit months ago now, they said it was being removed from the game as only 5% of player time was spent in that mode. Development time was to be focused on the remaining core modes of objective and stopwatch. Or to quote Shu directly from the announcement video, now more than ever we need to focus our energy on areas of the game that make Dirty Bomb stand out from the crowd. So it's with some interest that I hear about a strike team that is currently looking at the execution again. My reason for talking about this thing is one word, and that word is currently. Forgive me, but haven't the devs talked about releasing the game? The Layu report that people found from last year referenced March 2018 as a time for DB to launch, but the end of March is just over 2 months away. We should obviously add on some extra time. I imagine dates have slipped as they did with Hunter and so on. But I'm not sure what happened in the last 5 months to mean that scoping out and researching new variations of execution is now a good use of time and resources. I know that some of you love execution. I see messages of support to bring it back in comments regularly, but we are in the home stretch to release. This is a time for polish and improvement. This is about buffing the experience of playing DB to a fine shine, so that new people and older players try the game, stick around and spend money. This is about getting more people into DB by using the features that make it stand out from the crowd, the objective gameplay that harkens back to famous titles like Enemy Territory. This is about capitalising on DB's moment in the sun, to market it, and to shout to the world that things have changed. Come and try DB 1.0. So forgive me, but a single day a designer or programmer spends trying to implement possible good ideas for execution is a day not spent on objective and stopwatch, not spent on the EV, not spent on the tutorial, not spent on new player experience, not spent on ways to retain those new players, not spent on the many other issues and improvements that could add those areas of the game that make Dirty Bomb stand out from the crowd. I'm not one of the people who hated execution. I'm not wedded to the idea of it being removed to the game for good. I'm just saying that at this time, just 5-ish months since you said that only 5% of player time was spent in that mode, this close to release, if there are good ideas for execution, then great. Please write them down and save them in a folder marked post 1.0 release. Then revisit them after a successful launch. You only get one chance to release Dirty Bomb 1.0. I'd want every possible resource making sure that it's a success. I'm interested to know what you think about any of these topics, from execution to merc balance to weapon balance, but especially let me know what you think about the current state of burst rifles in the comments below right now. If you enjoyed the video, please do consider hitting that thumb up button and tapping that subscribe. It helps me grow the channel, make videos just like this one. If you want to follow me on the social medias, then there are links in the description below for Twitter, Facebook, and even Tumblr. Yes, that's right, Tumblr. I'm not sure why either. So, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Take care.